Hello, and welcome back to the Sweet Georgia Show. I'm your host, Felicia Lo, and I'm the founder and creative director of Sweet Georgia Yarns, an artisan yarn company based in Vancouver, Canada, and also the School of Sweet Georgia, our online fiber arts membership and learning community. I am so thrilled to be bringing you a brand new season of conversations about craft, being a maker, and the stories that bring us together. This is technically episode 100 of the Sweet Georgia Show. Now, this is a show that I started years back in 2015, when my son was just 18 months old. And I'd started this podcast because I had been away from my work for about a year. I'd gone on my self-imposed mat leave, and I had pregnancy-induced carpal tunnel syndrome, and so I couldn't knit at that time. I was going through a quilting phase, and I felt really disconnected from knitting and the whole crafting community. And so this podcast gave me the opportunity to sit down and have conversations with makers in the community who were really passionate about their craft and who really inspired me to keep going with my own craft and my own making. So being inspired to get back into the habit and the practice of making things, that is actually what led me to start making videos for our Sweet Georgia YouTube channel. And so I started a series back then in 2017 called Taking Back Friday. And so the idea behind that was to carve out a chunk of my Fridays to focus on making something rather than answering email or doing more bookkeeping or cleaning the house or any of those other things. I mean, there are so many responsibilities that we all have in life and that we need to take care of. And so I found that I was always putting off my actual craft and my creative work just to do those errands and those chores. And so by learning how to make my own videos for YouTube, that was a really pivotal point for me because for a long time I had been asked to teach some of the fiber arts that I do, things like dyeing or knitting or spinning and things like that. And I didn't have a way to teach if I wasn't physically present to teach. And so I had to figure out how to do video production in order to teach online. And so I thought initially that I had to hire a team of videographers and editors in order to make all those things happen. And so I did. I tried to do that. And I brought on a couple of videographers to come and help film some videos and do all the editing and everything like that. And seeing just how much was involved, I realized at the end of the day that I needed to learn how to do all of that myself, just so that I could actually start publishing things and get going. And so publishing those first videos on YouTube is what gave me confidence to then start the School of Sweet Georgia in 2017. And so the school is our online membership-based learning community. And we have now over 115 long-form video-based courses covering every aspect of the fiber arts, everything from fiber to fabric. So dyeing, spinning, knitting, crochet, tapestry, punch needle, color theory, weaving, all of the above, we include on our website at schoolofsweetgeorgia.com. And so when we were in that phase of building the school, we got very, very busy with creating a lot of those courses. And so during that time, I had to let the podcast production go. I couldn't do all of the things. And so the last episode that we published for the podcast was back in 2019. So it has been just over 4 years. And as you can imagine, lots has happened in those past 4 years since that last episode that we published in December 2019, if you can imagine. And so if you have followed us on YouTube since that time, you'll know that we've had many ups and downs and transitions that we've been through at Sweet Georgia over the years, like many other groups. And so now here we are. It is early 2025. And yes, I know that we've been away for a while, but I've been doing a lot of thinking since the last year. And I think that right now we are in a moment in time where it feels like things are actually quite fragile. It feels like there's a lot of change going on in the world, and it feels like we are becoming more and more isolated and distant from each other, whether that's because of world events or because of technology, but there is this sense of losing connection with each other. And so in these times when I feel like I'm losing touch with people, I think that the best thing to do is just to pick up the phone and catch up over a good conversation. And so this is kind of what the new season and the new direction of this podcast is really going to be. I want to come back and just have really good conversations with a renewed focus and take a deeper dive into what makes crafting so meaningful for us. It's not always about how to make things. We have the school for that, and we have a YouTube videos for all of that. And it's also not necessarily about the thing that we make at the end of the day. It's not really about the finished object. I really want to have conversations with people about why we create. Why are we compelled to create? Why can I not stop myself from making things? Why do I feel this ache to make stuff? Like, making things can be slow, and it can be expensive, and it can be frustrating, and can be sometimes challenging, but it also brings me so much joy that I can't even explain it. And so I'm trying to figure out, what is it that drives us? What drives us to make things? How does making things shape us and our identity and who we are? And so we do have some incredible guests lined up. I'm very excited to be talking to people from all over the world about their crafts and the stories that they have to share. Now, for this podcast, I would really like this to be, the kind of podcast that feels like a cozy chat. If you can imagine sort of sitting by the window with your warm cup of coffee or your tea, whatever you like, and your latest project, and then you just sit and work on your project while you listen to our conversations and just be part of that very warm, hopefully very inviting atmosphere. That's what I'm trying to create here. And so this podcast is going to be presented in two different formats. One is that we are going to have the video available on YouTube, so you can watch if you like, but if you don't want to watch the video, then you can absolutely just listen to the audio only podcast that we are going to put on all of the podcast providers. So you can find them on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever. We will be there. And we also want you to be a part of this community. I encourage you to leave comments on any of our podcasts on YouTube. I encourage you to message us. We also have a Discord server for Sweet Georgia where we connect with all the people in our Sweet Georgia community. And the very best thing to do is to sign up for our email newsletter so that you can be sure that you don't miss out on any of the updates, whether they are for the yarn or for the school or for the podcast or the news or any of the things that we have coming up. You can find all of that at sweetgeorgiayarns.com. So whether you have been a maker all your life or you're just starting out, I invite you to join us on this journey. Sweet Georgia is on a mission to spread joy through color and craft. And so the Sweet Georgia Show is meant to be more than a podcast. This is meant to be a celebration of our crafts, of our maker identity, and all the very human stories about crafts and making that connect us all. I'm very excited to get started on this new adventure with you, one conversation at a time. Thank you for listening, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye for now.